paint peeling away in thin flakes. It was nothing close to what a 19-year-old girl might dream of, but it was a reality. A little corner in her uncle's house that was never really hers. Her auntie's voice rang from the kitchen, sharp and cold. Auntie, Wine, have you cleaned the dishes or are you still sitting there doing nothing? God knows why we even feeding you. Wine flinched slightly but got up quickly, brushing the strands of her hairs away from her face. Wine, yes, auntie, I will do that right now. She walked barefoot into the kitchen, her steps quiet like someone who had learned to exist without making noise. The sink was piled with dishes, soap, suds already dried on some. She rolled up her sleeves and started scrubbing. Her cousin Mira walked in, humming happily in her phone in her hand. Sorry for my mistake. Mira, Mom, do you think Dad will give me money for the dress tomorrow? That one I showed you online? And of course, sweetheart, you will look so beautiful in it. You deserve it, not like some people here who are just a burden. Her eyes shifted pointedly to Wine. Wine's hands froze for a second, her throat tightening, but she kept her eyes down on the plates. Wine, I will finish this quickly. Mira smirked and leaned against the counter. Mira, why don't you ask Uncle for money too, Ryan? Oh wait, you can't. You don't need pretty clothes, right? Who is ever going to look at you? Even good dress can't help you. Auntie, stop talking to her. She should be thankful she has a roof over her head. The words cut deeper than knives, but Wine only nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. She had learned to take every insult and silence. Later that night, after dinner was over, Wine sat in the small balcony of the house, staring at the stars. The world outside seemed endless, beautiful but unreachable. She hugged her knees and whispered to herself, "Wine, I wish I could study like Mira. I wish I could sit in a classroom, hold books, and write exams. But maybe it's not for me." Her uncle came out, adjusting his shirt, looking tired from a long day of labor. He was not cruel like his wife, but he was not arm either. He had too many responsibilities, too little money, and no strength to fight for Wine. Uncle, Wine, tomorrow morning you should go early to the cafe. The owner asked if you could cover the morning shift. We need the money, you know that. Wine quickly nodded. Yes, uncle, I will go. Don't worry. Uncle, good. And listen, don't argue with your aunt. She's already stressed. Wine, I never argue, uncle. Wine, maybe one day someone will ask me what I want, just once. The next morning, Wine woke up before dawn, slipped into her faded blue dress, and tied her hair into a neat ponytail. The cafe smelled of coffee and fresh bread when she entered. The owner, Mrs. Park, was kind, perhaps the only person who treated her with some dignity. Mrs. Park, Wine, you are early as always. Good girl. Can you set the tables outside? Wine smiled faintly. Why, yes, ma'am. As she arranged chairs and white tables, she noticed a group of college students laughing, passing by in their uniforms. Their bags were filled with books, their eyes filled with dreams. She looked down at her tray, clutching it tightly. Wyan, thinking, if only I could be one of them. If only I could sit in a classroom and answer questions. Maybe I would not feel so empty. A fellow waitress, Sora, nudged her. Sora, Wine, you always stare at the students. Do you miss school that much? Wine bit her lips. Wine, I never really had school after I lost my parents. Uncle tried at first, but there was no money, so now it's just a dream. Sora frowned softly. Sora, you're so young though, only 19. Maybe someday. Wine, no, not everyone gets what they want, Sora. Her words were gentle, but inside her heart was breaking. The day stretched on in the cafe. One carried trays, smiled politely at customers, and took orders with a voice soft enough to be overlooked, yet steady enough to be heard. But sometimes, when the crowd thinned, she allowed herself a moment of escape. She would take out a small, old notebook from her bag, its cover frayed, the pages yellowed. It was her diary, the only place she allowed her heart to speak. In it were unfinished poems, little sketches, and clumsy attempts at math problems she copied from old newspapers. That afternoon, while cafe was quiet, she flipped to a fresh page. Fine. If I could, I would study. If I could, I would stand tall. If I could, I would prove I'm just nothing at all. Her pen trembled at the last line. She closed the notebook quickly as Mrs. Park walked past. Mrs. Park, my sweetheart, don't overwork yourself. Sit for a minute. Mayan forced her smile. Mayan, I'm fine, ma'am. Really. Mrs. Park gave her a look but didn't press further. When Mayan returned home that evening, her auntie's voice greeted her before she could even take her shoes off. Aunt, where were you? Did you forget to buy the rice I told you? Why, I didn't have enough money after paying for the bus, auntie. I thought, aunt, excuses. Always excuses. Can't do even a single thing right. God knows why we are feeling you. Why, you're nothing but a bad luck for this house. Her cousin Meera appeared from the living room, her phone in her hand, nails painted freshly. Meera, oh, Mom, don't be so harsh. Maybe she will marry some baker one day and take her bad luck with her. Both laughed, while Ryan stood frozen at the door, clutching the paper bag tightly against her chest. Her lips trembled, but she said nothing. Uncle entered at the moment, his brows furrowed from a long day's work. Enough, both of you. She works hard at the cafe to help us. Don't talk like that. Help us? Really? She barely earns enough for bus fare. If she was not here, at least we would have less mouths to feed. Wine. I will later. You will have dinner first. Inside her room, Wine sat on the floor beside the broken cupboard. She opened her diary again. Tears stained the page before she could even write. She wanted to scream, but she had no voice left to scream with. Wine, why was I born? If Mom and Dad were alive, maybe I would not be like this. Maybe someone would have loved me. She wrote shakingly. Sometimes silence is safer than words, because when I speak, no one listens, and when I stay quiet, at least my tears listen. She pressed the pen so hard that the page, nearly tore. Then she closed the diary and lay down on the thin mattress, curling into herself. The muffled laughter of her cousin and aunt seeped through the walls. It felt like knives. The next morning, she rose early again. Her cousin was sitting at the breakfast table, scrolling through her phone, while her aunt was fussing over her hair. Mira, Mom, do you think I will get into that college in the city? I will look so pretty on campus, right? Aunt, of course you will, my love. You deserve the best. Aunt, and you, Ryan, don't forget to wipe tables well today. That's a college, is not it? The cafe? Meera laughing loudly. Ryan. Yes, auntie. That evening, while cleaning the cafe floor, she overheard two customers were talking about university entrance exam. Their books were spread across the table, filled with notes and highlighted lines. Her chest arched as she leaned closer, pretending to wipe the next table. Okay, blah 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 blah. Then, when she returned home late that night, her cousin was showing off her admission form to her mother. Meera, look, Mom, I can't wait to leave this place and live in the city. Imagine how many friends I will make. Aunt, my daughter will be a queen in college, not like some people who don't even know how to hold a pen anymore. The both of them laughed, looking at a Ryan, who was standing in the doorway with tired eyes. Meera, Why don't feel bad? Not everyone is made for education. Some people are just made for serve. They burst out laughing. Mine clutched her fist at her sides, but said nothing. She walked past them silently, her shoulders heavy, her eyes burning. Then, that night the house was silent except for the faint ticking of the old clock in the living room. One sat on her bed, knees drawn up, clutching her diary to her chest. The laughter of her aunt and cousin had faded into sleep, but the words still echoed in her ears. Why am I here if no one wants me? Why I am why am I still alive if all I do is make people unhappy? Her throat tightened and she placed her palm to her mouth to stifle the sobs. She never cried loudly. Sorry from this. She had learned early that crying too much would only give her auntie more reasons to call her weak, dramatic, or ungrateful. So she cried in silence. Tears rolled down her cheeks, soaking in fabric of her pillow. She opened her diary and scribbled in shaky handwriting. One day, if anyone ever asks, I will say I wanted nothing but love, not riches, not jewelries, not dresses, only love. But maybe I was never meant to have it. Her tears blurred the ink, turning her words into smudges. Sometime past midnight, a knock came at her door. She quickly wiped her face and sat up. Uncle, Payan, are you awake? Payan, yes, uncle. Our uncle entered carrying a blanket. He looked tired, his shoulder bent with the weight of responsibilities. For a moment, he looked at her tear-stained face, but he didn't say. He already knew. Uncle, the nights are cold. Take this blanket. You will fall sick otherwise. Mine's chest arched. It was rare for anyone to show her even a small kindness. She accepted with her trembling hands. Fine, thank you, uncle. Uncle, why I know things are not easy for you here. Your auntie, she doesn't understand, and Mira, she's spoiled, but you must endure, child. I cannot fight everything. I barely manage to feed this house. Fine, quietly, I understand, uncle. I don't blame you. I just sometimes wish my parents were alive, just so someone would have wanted me. Her uncle's eyes softened. For a second, it seemed he wanted to say something, maybe comfort her, but he only patted her shoulder and stood. Uncle, get some sleep. Tomorrow will be another long day. He left. Mine lay back down, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, another long day. Another cycle of being invisible, unwanted, unheard. The next morning, she left for the cafe before dawn. She preferred walking instead of taking bus, saving the few coins she earned. The streets were quiet, the air chilly. She hugged her thin shawl tighter around herself. On the way, she passed a school. Through the gate, she saw children in uniforms holding books, laughing with their friends. She stopped for a moment and watching them from afar. Her eyes filled again. Mine, that should have been me. Not cleaning tables, not wiping dishes, but carrying books, learning things, and dreaming things. She whispered aloud, her breath misting in the cold morning air. Mine, why does everyone get a chance except me? At the cafe, she worked harder than usual that day. She carried heavy trays, smiled politely at every customer, and even took an extra shot when another girl could not come. Mrs. Park noticed the exertion in her eyes. Mrs. Park, why you're walking yourself through take a rest. Eat something at least. Mine shook her head gently. Wine, I will eat later, ma'am. Don't worry. I'm fine. But she was not fine. Her body was tired, her heart even more so. Still, she kept going because what else could she do? That evening, after closing, Mine stayed back to clean. The cafe door opened and her uncle walked in.